The sun was setting over the quiet little town, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. The streets were empty, and the air was cool after a long summer day. Myra and Lena, twin sisters of 13, walked hand in hand along the narrow path that curved beside the river. They had gone to the market to buy a few vegetables for their grandmother, and now they were making their way back home. The twins looked alike in many ways. Both had gentle brown eyes, soft black hair tied in simple braids, and bright smiles that seemed to glow even in the dim light. Yet, they were different in nature. Myra was more curious and talkative, while Lena was thoughtful and quiet. Together, they balanced each other, like two sides of the same heart. As they walked, Myra pointed to the sky. "Look, Lena. The clouds look like cotton candy." Lena smiled softly. "You always see funny shapes, Myra." "I just see clouds." The girls giggled, their laughter echoing through the still evening air. They loved these little walks. Life in their small town was simple, and though they did not have much, they found joy in the little things. But as they turned the bend near the old willow tree by the riverbank, Myra suddenly stopped. Her hand tightened around Lena's. "Wait," she whispered. Lena followed her gaze and saw a figure lying still on the grass, half hidden under the shadows of the tree. It was a man. The twins froze. For a moment, neither of them knew what to do. They had never seen something like this before. "Is he asleep?" Myra asked nervously. Lena shook her head. "No, it doesn't look like that. He isn't moving." They stepped closer, their hearts beating fast. The man was dressed in a neat suit, though it was a little dusty now. His shoes were polished, his shirt crisp, and yet he was lying on the ground as if he had fallen there. His face was pale, and his eyes were closed. "He doesn't look like someone from around here," Lena whispered. Myra bent down carefully. "He looks like he fainted." The sisters exchanged a worried glance. They were just two young girls, what could they possibly do? But their grandmother had always taught them, when you see someone in need, you don't turn away. You try to help, even if it's in a small way. Taking a deep breath, Myra gently touched the man's arm. "Sir? Can you hear us?" There was no answer. "He's breathing," Lena said, her voice trembling but calm. "I think he just needs help." Myra bit her lip. "We can't leave him here. What if something bad happens?" The twins thought quickly. Their home wasn't far, just a 10-minute walk from the river. They could not carry the man alone, but perhaps together they could manage. "Let's try," Myra said firmly. It took all their strength and effort. The man was heavy, and the path was uneven, but the twins were determined. Slowly, step by step, they pulled and supported him, sometimes dragging, sometimes lifting. Sweat ran down their faces, but they did not stop. Their little hands clutched tightly, their small shoulders pressed against his arm to hold him steady. By the time they reached their small wooden house, the sun had already dipped low, and the first stars were peeking out. Their grandmother, Emma, was standing by the door, waiting for them. She frowned in surprise when she saw the figure between them. "Myra. Lena. What is this?" The girls explained quickly, panting from exhaustion. "We found him near the river, Emma. He was lying there, we couldn't leave him." Emma's worried face softened as she looked at the stranger. Though old, her heart was still strong and kind. She guided the girls to bring him inside. Together, they laid the man on a simple cot in the corner of their small living room. Emma touched his forehead gently. "He has a slight fever." "Poor soul, he must be very tired," she murmured. She mixed warm water with herbs and placed a cloth on his head. Myra and Lena stood nearby, watching with wide eyes. "Will he be okay?" Lena asked softly. "Yes, child," Emma replied. "He just needs rest." The twins exchanged relieved glances. They felt proud that they had managed to bring him home, though they still had many questions. Who was he? Why was he lying unconscious near the river? As the night grew darker, the stranger remained silent, breathing slowly under Emma's care. The little house, usually filled with laughter and chatter, now carried an air of mystery. Myra and Lena whispered to each other as they prepared their small bedding on the floor. "Do you think he's from the city?" Myra asked. "Maybe," Lena said. "He doesn't look like someone from here. His clothes, they're too fine. Could he be rich?" Myra's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Lena shrugged. "I don't know. But Emma says it doesn't matter. He's a human first, and he needed help. That's all that matters." Myra smiled faintly. "Still, it feels like he has a story." The girls finally lay down, their tired bodies relaxing after the long evening. Yet, their minds were full of questions. They didn't know that the man resting under their roof carried a secret that would change their lives forever. As the crickets chirped outside and the night breeze drifted through the small window, the twins drifted into sleep, unaware that their simple act of kindness had just opened the first page of a much bigger story. The morning sun peeked through the thin curtains of the small wooden house. Birds chirped outside, and the smell of Emma's cooking filled the air. Myra and Lena were already awake, whispering softly as they peeked at the stranger still lying on the cot. "Do you think he will wake up today?" Myra asked, brushing her braid back. Lena nodded slowly. "Maybe. He looks a little better than yesterday." The man was resting quietly, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. His pale face seemed more peaceful now, though he was still weak. The cloth Emma had placed on his forehead had dried, so Lena gently replaced it with a fresh one. Emma noticed the girls fussing over him and smiled. "Patience, children. He will wake when his body is ready. For now, we must take care of him." After breakfast, the girls went about their chores, sweeping the floor, watering the little garden, and helping Emma with washing clothes. Yet, their eyes kept wandering to the silent figure on the cot. By afternoon, a small sound startled them. The stranger stirred. His fingers twitched, and his eyelids fluttered. Myra gasped. "He's waking up." Emma hurried to his side as the man slowly opened his eyes. He looked confused, as though trying to remember where he was. His gaze fell on the simple wooden ceiling, then on the worried faces around him. "You're safe," Emma said softly. "You fainted by the river. My granddaughters found you." The man blinked, still weak. His voice was low and rough when he finally spoke. "Where am I?" "You're in our home," Emma replied. "Rest. You need strength." Myra leaned closer, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Sir, do you remember your name?" The man hesitated for a moment, then answered, "Daniel." Lena repeated it gently, as if testing the sound. Daniel, it was a simple name, but it carried a weight they could not understand yet. Emma gave him a cup of warm broth. "Drink this. It will help." Daniel accepted it with shaky hands, sipping slowly. His eyes scanned the small room, the simple clay pots on the shelf, the rough wooden floor, the faded but clean curtains. Everything was modest, yet there was warmth in every corner. "Thank you," he said quietly, looking at Emma. "And, thank you, girls." Myra grinned. "We only did what Emma always tells us: never leave someone who needs help." Lena, quieter, simply smiled and nodded. For the rest of the day, Daniel rested on the cot while the twins went about their tasks. But their curiosity grew stronger. Who was this man, dressed in fine clothes, yet lying unconscious by the river? Why was he alone? In the evening, Myra couldn't hold her questions any longer. She sat by the cot with Lena beside her. "Daniel," she said softly, Where were you going before we found you? Daniel looked at her for a long moment, then gave a faint smile. Far from here. I was traveling, but I became tired. It wasn't the full truth, but the girls didn't press further. They could see he wasn't ready to share everything. You should stay here until you're strong again, Lena said kindly. Emma nodded firmly. Yes, child. A man must not walk alone when his body is weak. You are welcome here, Daniel. For the first time, Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest. It had been years since someone spoke to him with such simple kindness, without expecting anything in return. As the days passed, Daniel began to recover. He walked slowly at first, stretching his legs outside the house while the twins chattered around him. Sometimes he sat by the garden while Myra and Lena played small games or told him stories from school. One afternoon, he surprised them by fixing their broken chair. With steady hands, he tightened the loose joints and smoothed the splintered edges. You're good at this, Myra said with admiration. Daniel chuckled softly. I used to fix things long ago. Before, life became busy. Lena tilted her head. Busy with what? Daniel paused. For a moment, his eyes seemed distant, filled with unspoken thoughts. But instead of answering directly, he smiled gently. Work. Just work. The twins didn't ask more, sensing that his silence held secrets. Every evening, as the lantern glowed in their little home, Daniel found himself listening to the twins' laughter and Emma's gentle voice. They spoke of ordinary things: market days, neighbors, school, and memories of their late parents. Despite their struggles, the family carried joy in their hearts. Daniel felt something stir inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Belonging. A sense of being cared for without conditions. One night, as the twins prepared for bed, Myra whispered to Lena, he seems lonely, don't you think? Lena nodded. Yes. He smiles, but his eyes, they look sad. The sisters didn't know why, but they both wanted to make him smile more. And so, the quiet days continued. Daniel remained in the small wooden house, surrounded by the warmth of the twins and their grandmother. Each day, he grew stronger. Yet, inside, he carried a hidden story, one that the little family had no idea about. Myra and Lena only knew him as Daniel, the stranger they had saved. But the truth of who he really was still rested quietly behind his gentle smile. And soon, that truth would begin to show. The days in the little wooden house moved gently, like the calm flow of the river nearby. Morning sunlight filled the rooms, and the sound of the rooster woke everyone before dawn. Myra and Lena would help Emma with chores before school, and Daniel, though still weak, began to join them in small ways. He started by carrying water from the well, though Emma scolded him gently. You are not strong yet. Rest more, my son. But Daniel smiled politely. Resting too much makes the body slow. I feel better when I move. The twins laughed. They liked seeing him try to fit into their daily rhythm. At first, he looked out of place, a man in neat city clothes helping in a simple village home, but soon, he seemed like he had always been there. Myra and Lena found joy in having him around. When they returned from school, they would run to the house excitedly. Daniel would be sitting by the garden, waiting with a kind smile. He listened as they told him about their lessons, their teachers, and their little adventures. One afternoon, Myra showed him a drawing she made in her notebook. It was a picture of the river, with the old willow tree where they had first found him. You drew this? Daniel asked, his eyes soft with admiration. Yes, Myra said proudly. I love drawing. One day, I want to be an artist. Lena chuckled. And I want to be a teacher. Then maybe Myra can draw the books I will read to my students. Daniel smiled at their dreams. Both of you will do wonderful things. I can see it in your eyes. The girls beamed at his words, feeling encouraged. As days passed, Daniel began to notice little details about the family. Their clothes were simple, patched in places, but always neat. Their meals were modest, mostly rice, lentils, and vegetables, but always shared with love. He saw how the twins cared for Emma, never letting her do heavy work. Despite their struggles, the house was filled with warmth, laughter, and kindness. It touched Daniel deeply. For years, his own life had been full of luxury but empty of such moments. He thought of the grand house where he lived, with shining floors and expensive furniture, but where silence often echoed in every room. Here, in this humble home, he felt something far richer: belonging. One evening, Daniel offered to fix the little wooden fence around the garden. "It's leaning too much. The wind could knock it down." Emma looked at him with surprise. "You know how to repair fences?" Daniel gave a quiet chuckle. "I may not look it, but once long ago, I learned many simple things." With a hammer and a few nails, he worked patiently, while the twins watched in amazement. They handed him tools, giggling when he asked for help. When the job was done, the fence stood straight again. "You're strong now," Myra said cheerfully. Lena added, "You don't look like a guest anymore. You look like part of the family." Daniel's heart warmed at her words. He had not felt part of a family for a very long time. Later that night, after supper, the family sat together under the dim light of the lantern. The twins played a clapping game, their laughter echoing through the small house. Daniel sat watching, a smile on his face but also a shadow in his eyes. Emma noticed it. She was an old woman with wise eyes, and she knew when someone carried unspoken thoughts. "You look far away, Daniel," she said gently. "Your mind is not here, though your body is." Daniel lowered his gaze. "Perhaps. I have lived a life where everything moved too fast. I did not see the simple things, like this." He gestured toward the twins. "I forgot what real peace feels like." The twins stopped their game and looked at him with innocent curiosity. "You don't have peace in your home?" Myra asked softly. Daniel hesitated. He did not want to reveal the truth yet. "Sometimes, even when people have everything, they still feel empty inside," he said finally. Lena tilted her head. "But you don't look empty now. You smile more every day." Daniel's lips curved into a small smile. "That is because of you all. You have given me something I didn't know I needed." The twins exchanged a happy glance, proud that they could make him feel better. That night, as he lay on the cot, Daniel stared at the ceiling for a long time. The words of the twins echoed in his mind. He wondered how children could see truths that grown men often ignored. Their world was small, yet their hearts were so big. He thought of his life in the city: meetings, deadlines, wealth, and responsibilities. He had always been surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Yet here, in this modest home, he was cared for simply because he was human, not because of his name or position. Daniel closed his eyes and whispered softly to himself, "Maybe fate brought me here for a reason." The little town was small enough that everyone noticed when something unusual happened. A stranger staying at Emma's home quickly became the subject of whispers. When Myra and Lena walked to school, neighbors would stop them. "Who is that man staying in your house?" one woman asked curiously. "He looks important," another murmured. "His clothes are not like ours." The twins only smiled politely. "His name is Daniel. We found him near the river, and Emma said we must help him." Though most people respected Emma's kindness, some could not hide their curiosity. Children from school asked too, but Myra and Lena never said more than necessary. They simply explained he was recovering. Inside the small home, Daniel began to notice the attention. When he stepped outside to walk by the garden or fetch water, he sometimes felt eyes following him. People would greet him politely, but he saw the question in their faces: Who is he really? One afternoon, while the twins were at school, Emma sat with Daniel on the porch. The air was warm, and the sound of birds filled the trees. People are talking, Emma said calmly. They wonder who you are. Daniel's hand stilled on the cup of tea he was holding. He stared into the distance before answering. I imagine they would. I don't quite fit here. Emma's wise eyes studied him. You don't need to tell me anything you're not ready to share. But remember, children are pure. Myra and Lena see only your heart. To them, you are just Daniel. Her words comforted him. For now, that was all he wanted, to simply be Daniel, not the person the world knew. That evening, however, something unexpected happened. Lena was folding Daniel's coat to place it neatly on the chair when something small slipped out of the pocket. It was a pen, shining faintly in the lamplight. Not an ordinary pen, it was golden, with initials carefully engraved on the side. Look, Myra, Lena whispered, holding it up. This doesn't look like something from the market. Myra's eyes widened. It looks expensive. Maybe it's from the city. The twins turned the pen in their hands, curious. On it were two letters D.R. What do you think it means? Lena asked. Maybe his name, Myra guessed. Daniel, something. She grinned playfully. Maybe he's a prince in disguise. When Daniel returned to the room, the twins jumped a little, quickly placing the pen back on the coat. Myra, bold as ever, decided to ask. Daniel, is this your pen? It looks very special. Daniel froze for a second before nodding. Yes. It was a gift. From someone important. Lena asked softly. Daniel gave a small smile but did not answer directly. Yes, someone important. His eyes grew distant, as though remembering something far away. The twins exchanged curious glances but said no more. They could sense he was not ready to explain. That night, as they lay on their bedding, Myra whispered, I think Daniel is hiding something. Lena turned on her side. Yes, but Emma says it doesn't matter. He is kind. That's enough. Still, Myra could not stop her thoughts. What if he is not just an ordinary man? What if he comes from somewhere big? Lena closed her eyes. Then why would he be lying by the river, all alone? The question lingered in the room, unanswered. Meanwhile, Daniel sat quietly by the small window, staring out at the moon. His fingers traced the golden pen. He remembered the boardrooms, the endless meetings, the pressure of running an empire. He remembered the loneliness that followed him everywhere, even in crowds. Here, in this humble house, he was free of those burdens. For the first time in years, he felt like just a man, not a name or a title. Yet he knew his truth could not stay hidden forever. The next day, Daniel joined the twins in their walk to school. Children ran past, curious about the tall man beside them. Teachers glanced at him with polite interest. The twins proudly said, "This is our friend Daniel." Though he smiled, Daniel felt a heaviness inside. He had never been introduced so simply before. To be called just a friend, it touched him more deeply than he expected. Later that evening, after supper, the twins asked him to tell a story. Daniel thought for a while, then began to speak not about riches or business, but about the time he was a boy running through fields, chasing kites with his father. His voice grew soft as he shared those memories, and the twins listened with shining eyes. You had a happy childhood, Lena said. Daniel nodded. Yes. But as I grew, life became more complicated. Myra tilted her head. Did you stop chasing kites? Daniel chuckled lightly. Yes. I stopped. Then maybe, Myra said seriously, you should start again. Her simple words made Daniel pause. He realized these two little girls, with their innocent wisdom, were teaching him lessons he had long forgotten. That night, as the twins fell asleep, Daniel whispered to Emma, "They see through me. Even when I say little, they seem to know my heart." Emma smiled knowingly. Children often see what grown eyes have forgotten. Daniel looked at the twins, sleeping peacefully. He felt gratitude, but also fear. Gratitude for the kindness that healed him. Fear that one day, when they learned the truth of who he was, they might see him differently. For now, he remained just Daniel, the man they had saved by the river. But the golden pen on the chair was a quiet reminder that his hidden truth was waiting to be revealed. The days passed gently, and Daniel grew stronger. His face no longer looked pale, and his steps became steady again. He was able to help Emma more, and sometimes he even walked to the edge of the town with Myra and Lena. Though life in the small wooden house was simple, it was filled with moments that touched his heart. In the mornings, the girls would chatter about their dreams. In the afternoons, they would laugh and play, and in the evenings, Emma would tell wise sayings that made Daniel think deeply. One evening, the family sat outside under the old tree in their yard. The air was cool, and the stars were beginning to shine. Myra was busy sketching something in her notebook while Lena was braiding a little garland of flowers. Daniel watched them quietly, his hands resting on his knees. "You are both very talented," he said softly. Myra looked up with a smile. "I just like drawing. It makes me happy. And I like making things with my hands," Lena added shyly, holding up the flower garland. "It's not much, but it feels pretty." Daniel accepted the garland when she offered it to him. "It is beautiful," he said warmly. "More beautiful because it was made with love." The girls smiled at his kind words, but Emma noticed the faraway look in Daniel's eyes. He seemed to enjoy the moment, yet there was a sadness hidden behind his smile. That night, after the twins had gone to bed, Emma sat with Daniel by the lantern's glow. The small flame flickered between them. "You carry a heavy silence," Emma said gently. "Perhaps you need to speak it out." Daniel hesitated. For days he had avoided sharing too much, fearing the truth would change how they saw him. But Emma's words opened a door inside him. He sighed deeply. "I come from a world very different from this. People there have everything money can buy. Big houses, cars, endless food. But what they don't always have is peace. Or love." Emma listened quietly as he continued. "My life has been filled with work. Day and night, I have carried responsibilities. Many people know my name, but few know my heart. Even when I am surrounded by others, I often feel alone." His voice grew softer. "When I fainted by the river, I was not only weak in body. I was tired in soul." Emma placed her wrinkled hand gently on his. "Sometimes, the richest man is the poorest inside. And sometimes, the simplest home can give the richest gift, love." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "That is what I feel here. With you, with the girls. I feel like I have found something I didn't even know I was missing." The next day, Daniel seemed lighter, as though sharing his thoughts had freed him. He spent more time with Myra and Lena, listening to their little stories and even joining in their games. One afternoon, the girls convinced him to play a clapping game. Daniel was awkward at first, missing the rhythm, but the twins laughed so hard that soon he laughed too. His deep laugh echoed through the small house, surprising even himself. "You see," Myra said proudly. "You can play just like us." Lena nodded. "You don't look lonely when you smile." Daniel's heart warmed at their words. These two children, with their innocent eyes, had given him more comfort than all the luxuries in his world. That evening, the family shared a simple dinner of rice and vegetables. As they ate, Myra asked, "Daniel, what makes you happy?" The question surprised him. He paused before answering. "I used to think success made me happy. But now, I think moments like this do. Sitting with people who care for me. The twins exchanged smiles. Then we will make you happy every day, Myra declared. Yes, Lena agreed softly. You are part of our family now. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He had never been told such words before, not in sincerity, not without hidden motives. He looked at Emma, who gave him a knowing smile. That night, as he prepared to sleep, Daniel reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. A few weeks ago, he had been a man burdened by work and emptiness. Now, he was simply Daniel, a guest in a small home, yet treated with more kindness than he ever received in his grand life. He whispered to himself, maybe this is what real wealth looks like. Meanwhile, Myra and Lena lay side by side on their bedding. Myra whispered, Daniel looks happier now, don't you think? Yes, Lena replied. His eyes don't look so sad anymore. Myra smiled in the dark. We helped him, just like Emma always says we should help others. Neither of them knew just how true those words were. They had not only helped Daniel recover his strength, they had touched his heart in a way no one else ever had. The days ahead still held secrets and surprises. But for now, in that little wooden house under the quiet night sky, the bond between the stranger and the family grew stronger than ever. The morning began like any other in Emma's little wooden house. The smell of fresh bread filled the air, and the twins' laughter could be heard as they chased each other around the yard. Daniel sat on the porch, sipping tea, watching them with a smile. He felt at peace in this quiet life, a peace he had not known for many years. Yet, deep inside, he knew this peace could not last forever. He had not shared his true self with them. He was only Daniel here, not the man the world recognized. That afternoon, the silence of the town was broken by the sound of a car engine. Cars were rare in this quiet place, and the noise drew everyone's attention. A sleek black car stopped near Emma's house, and two men stepped out, both dressed neatly. They looked around anxiously until their eyes fell on Daniel. Sir, one of them called out with relief. We finally found you. The twins froze where they stood. Emma looked up in surprise. Daniel, however, closed his eyes briefly, as though the moment he had been dreading had finally arrived. The two men hurried forward. One was his driver, the other his assistant. They both looked worried and exhausted, as if they had searched for days. Mr. Roy, the assistant said, we've been looking everywhere. The whole city is in panic. The company, the board, everyone, they didn't know where you had gone. The words fell like heavy stones into the quiet yard. Myra blinked. Mr. Roy, she repeated softly. Lena looked at Daniel with wide eyes. They called you. Mr. Roy. Daniel sighed and stood slowly, facing the family. His voice was calm but serious. It is true. My full name is Daniel Roy. I am the head of a large company. In the city, people call me a billionaire, a CEO. The twins gasped. Their hands tightened together. Emma remained still, her wise eyes watching him closely. Daniel continued, his tone gentle. I did not tell you because I wanted, for once, to be seen as just a man. Not as a name, not as someone with power or money. When you found me by the river, you helped me without knowing who I was. And for that, I will always be grateful. The twins were quiet, trying to take in his words. The man they had nursed back to health, the one who laughed with them, fixed their fence, and shared their meals, was not just an ordinary stranger. He was someone the whole world would recognize. Myra finally spoke, her voice trembling with wonder. So, you are really a billionaire? Daniel gave a small, almost sad smile. Yes, child. But here, with you, I was simply Daniel. That was the happiest I have been in a very long time. The assistant looked uncomfortable. Sir, we must return to the city. There are urgent matters waiting for you. Daniel nodded slowly but turned back to the family. His eyes softened as he looked at Emma, Myra, and Lena. I don't want to leave without telling you this: you gave me something money cannot buy. You gave me kindness, family, and peace. Lena's voice was soft. We didn't know. We just wanted to help you. And that is what makes it so precious, Daniel said warmly. You saw me as a person, not a title. Emma finally spoke, her voice steady. Daniel Roy or Daniel the stranger, it does not matter. What matters is the heart. And you showed us yours. Her words brought a deep calm to the moment. The twins, though still surprised, began to smile. But the news spread quickly in the town. Neighbors gathered at the edge of the yard, whispering and pointing. Some looked amazed, others tried to act polite now that they knew his true identity. Daniel noticed the change in their eyes. He felt a pang in his heart. This was exactly why he had hidden who he was. People treated him differently when they knew. That evening, after the car and his assistants left with a promise to return the next day, the house was quiet again. The twins sat close to Daniel, their small faces still full of questions. Will you go away now? Myra asked sadly. Daniel looked at her with gentle eyes. I must return to the city for my work. But I don't want to disappear from your lives. You mean too much to me now. Lena whispered, even if you are a billionaire, you will still be Daniel to us. Daniel felt his heart swell. And to me, you will always be Myra and Lena, the girls who saved me. Emma watched them silently, her hands folded in her lap. She knew the bond they had created was not ordinary. It was something rare, something that would last no matter the distance between them. That night, as Daniel prepared for bed, he looked at the small room one more time, the simple shelves, the clay pots, the lantern glow. It was so different from the world he belonged to, yet it felt more like home than anywhere else he had ever been. He whispered softly into the stillness, this family has given me more than I could ever give them. Tomorrow, I must decide how to show them my gratitude. The stars shone brightly above, as though listening to his promise. The next morning was filled with a strange quiet. Myra and Lena helped Emma prepare breakfast, but their minds were far away. They kept glancing toward Daniel's room, wondering what he would decide now that his secret was revealed. When Daniel stepped out, dressed neatly in the simple shirt and trousers he had borrowed days ago, the twins ran to him. Their faces were full of unspoken worry. Are you leaving today? Lena asked softly. Daniel smiled, though his eyes carried both warmth and sadness. Yes, I must go back to the city. My company needs me. But before I leave, I have something important to say. They all sat together around the wooden table. The smell of fresh bread and tea filled the air, but the mood was serious. Daniel looked at Emma first. You welcomed me into your home without asking for anything in return, he said gently. You fed me, cared for me, and treated me like family. That is something I will never forget. Today, I want to promise you something. You will never have to worry about anything again. Emma tried to protest, shaking her head. We did what anyone should do. Kindness does not ask for reward. Daniel's smile grew warmer. And that is why it means so much. But please, let me help. Let me make life easier for you. The twins leaned forward eagerly. What do you mean? Myra asked, her big eyes shining. Daniel stood and gestured for them to follow him outside. The morning sun touched the fields with gold, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of grass. He looked at the small house, the old fence, and the patched roof. This home gave me peace, he said. But I can see how much work Emma has to do alone. So I will repair the house, make it stronger and more comfortable. And for both of you, he looked at the twins, I will make sure you can go to the best school. You deserve to learn, to grow, and to follow your dreams. The twins gasped, their hands flying to their mouths. "Really?" Lena whispered. "You will help us study?" "Yes," Daniel said firmly. "I want you both to have every opportunity. You saved me when I had nothing, not even my strength. Now I want to see you shine." Tears filled Emma's eyes. She placed her hand on Daniel's arm. "You are a good man, Daniel. Not because of money, but because you remember the value of love and kindness." The twins hugged him tightly, their little arms around his waist. "We don't care if you are rich," Myra said with a small laugh. "To us, you are just Daniel." "And you always will be," Lena added. The sound of another car approaching broke the moment. It was the assistant, who had returned to take Daniel back to the city. He stepped out respectfully, waiting in silence as he saw the bond between Daniel and the family. Daniel turned back to them, his voice gentle but full of promise. "I will return. Not as a stranger, but as someone who belongs here too. This is now my second home." Emma nodded slowly, her heart full. "Then go, Daniel. Do your work. But remember, this door will always remain open for you." The twins ran after him as he walked toward the car. "Don't forget us," they cried. Daniel crouched down, looking into their hopeful faces. "Forget you? Never. You are the reason I found myself again. I will come back soon, and when I do, we will build something beautiful together." He hugged them one last time before stepping into the car. As it drove away, the twins waved until it disappeared down the dusty road. For a moment, silence filled the air again. But it was not the silence of sadness, it was the silence of hope. In the weeks that followed, true to his word, Daniel kept in touch. Letters arrived first, written in his careful handwriting, filled with kind words and small stories from the city. Soon after, workers came to repair Emma's house, fixing the roof, painting the walls, and building a new garden where the twins could play. One bright morning, a large envelope arrived with the twins' names on it. Inside were admission papers for a school in town, along with uniforms neatly folded. Myra and Lena could hardly believe it. Emma's eyes shone as she watched their excitement. "Daniel kept his promise," she whispered. "And he did more than that." Months later, when he returned in person, he did not arrive with noise or pride. He came quietly, stepping out of the car with the same smile they remembered. The twins rushed to him, laughing, their arms open wide. Daniel looked at them and at Emma, his heart full. "I told you I would return," he said softly. "And I always will." The sun set behind them, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. The little family stood together, no longer strangers, but forever connected by kindness. For Daniel, who had once been lost and empty despite all his wealth, this small house by the river was proof of something priceless. Riches could build towers, but love built a home. And so, their story did not end that day, it only began, with promises of laughter, learning, and a future filled with hope.